products are non-GMO, MSG-free, and vegetarian. Most are gluten, soy, and nut-free. Call 541-229-0010 today. Oregon Trail Foods and 30dayfoodsupply.com keep prices low, cutting out the middleman by buying directly from their producers in Oregon. Remember, only $10 ships your entire order to the lower 48. Visit the website 30dayfoodsupply.com. Call 541-229-0010. 30dayfoodsupply.com. 541-229-0010.
I'll tell you why I'm humbled. Alex Jones here, back live. Still alive. I've seen so much crazy stuff, been threatened so much, been attacked. And we're here. God's taking us through it. We don't just need to lie down to evil. We can stand up against it. Evil isn't the only force in the universe. That's the bottom line. Your phone calls, Ron in Hawaii. And we're going to talk to Barbara in Illinois and Indigo Kid in Colorado first when we come back. Ramon, Kevin, and many others on what you think the big event will be in 2015 or maybe even this year. What's the next shoe to drop in the organized global crisis that the New World Order is clearly orchestrating and admitting in many cases they're orchestrating? Finishing up with medical tyranny, there are now reports coming out every few days I see where schools are inoculating children without consent. They're really pushing the vaccines. They're trying to tell nurses they'll be fired if they don't take all these vaccines. They're intimidating people. They're lying and saying it's the law. Finishing up with Hagmann and Hagmann, Doug Hagmann and Joe Hagmann, father and son team, investigative journalists and private detectives. Finishing up on Ebola. Then I want to shift gears into what you think the other big events are. And one of the people, Barbara, asked from Illinois, and we're going to go to her, she thinks government coup may be the next thing. Well, it's already a coup if Congress lets Obama have all these executive orders on immigration, you name it.
That's right. You know what, Alex? I got to tell you, the coup is happening, and it has happened, basically. You talked about this, the right-left paradigm. It's gone. It's gone. We have, in fact, we just talked to a source this morning in D.C. who said, watch over the next 30 to 60 days, especially over the next couple of weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving holiday, where you're going to see Republicans and Democrats work together and force through or allow an executive order on amnesty. And everyone's throwing out this 40%. Well, Reagan signed an executive order allowing 40% of illegal immigrants some sort of allowance to remain here. Well, that 40% back in 1986 is a whole lot different than the 40% in 2014. But the fact of the matter is, the immigration is a big part of it, and just to wet people's whistle a little bit, toward 2015, especially toward the fall, you're looking at a major economic collapse. This is all being hidden. I mean, at the end of the road, Alex, what we're seeing here is the cover for a major economic collapse and the establishment of a digital currency that is going to mesh with the medical biotronics that we're dealing with right now.
That's right. Obamacare is the NSA rollout and legalizes a lot of NSA spying that's already going on to tie everything together. I mean, it's just so cold-blooded.
Exactly. And you pointed this out so many times. The flood of illegal immigrants, the legitimization of the illegal aliens here in this country, flooding our hospitals, bringing with them the diseases being dispersed all across the United States. The Cloward Piven strategy is at play here. And ultimately, they need somebody to blame for this monetary meltdown that will occur, that'll take the U.S. dollar out. And what better excuse to say, hey, we never saw the Ebola crisis, or insert the pandemic here.
Bird flu, SARS too, who knows?
We just couldn't have ever. I mean, who'd have thought this? Who'd have thought this? And that's what they're doing. They're setting us up. It's all a big lie. The lie is just bigger at every single level.
Absolutely.
And that's what Joe has done.
You know, with this, some examples on the Ebola is not following standard operating procedure and actually seeing things that are opposite of common sense. Is when they warn about the dangers of Ebola and how much it is affecting people in West Africa, yet they keep travel open and they don't restrict it. There's no precautions taken, and they're flying people with Ebola here. I think it is more of a covering than to worry about the Ebola. I think it's a cover for what is coming down the line economically. The IMF is asking or demanding more power.
Yep.
And a consolidation.
Well, it's just like we're under the UN with our military in Africa. They use all this where there's a global response. You don't control it at your border. You open your borders up, and then you have to go clean it up in Africa. This is what they said in the SPP documents, that they would use pandemics to bring in global government, so they would have continent-wide and transcontinent responses, not national responses, emasculating the national response forces or putting them under the UN. And by the way, in case you didn't hear it, folks, here's Obama saying this Ebola crisis is a trial run. Here it is.
And in many ways, what this has done is elevated that importance. There may come a time, sometime in the future, where we are dealing with an airborne disease that is much easier to catch and is deadly. And in some ways, this has created a trial run for federal, state, and local public health officials and healthcare providers,
That's right.
as well as the American people.
Going under federalization. We're going to come back with Hagmann and Hagmann straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Their site is hagmannandhagmann.com. Your calls are straight ahead, and they'll give you their response and more of their take and their sources on what's coming in 2015 and how to stop it.
We're on the march.
With myself and the rest of the great news team, we've got our reporters in Ferguson, Missouri. And they're going to be joining us at the bottom of the next hour. They've discovered quite a bit. We've got, of course, the host of Hagmannandhagmann.com, Doug Hagmann and Joe Hagmann, his son, that do a great job. I want to get their take on what's happening. Before the Trayvon Martin thing, he said the goal will be race war. And then after that, they said, look for more. That's what our federal sources are saying, stirring that up and allowing groups to piggyback on demonstrations and to carry out violence. And what we found in Ferguson, we have it on video, is we'd find Molotov cocktails cached. We'd find people doing looting. The cops would not go after them, and they would shoot our reporters with rubber bullets for trying to be helpful. They would go out of their way to attack even mainstream reporters and then say they hadn't. That level of lying discredits them. But it's the federal training. And that's why you notice the governor wouldn't say the state was in charge 2 days ago in Ferguson. So, gentlemen, I want to go to calls directly, but Ferguson, your take on Ferguson and that verdict that they keep saying is imminent, and now they're waiting while the temperature goes up and more people get on the street. What do you have to say about the Ferguson situation?
Okay, I've got a source right now in D.C. within the DHS who said that this is a DHS operation, Alex. It is, in fact, it's not limited to Ferguson, as you have reported. This is going to be an attempt to hit all the larger urban areas across the United States. It's going to look like it starts in Ferguson, but it's going to extend in other cities. And if people are familiar with the riots back in 68, 67, 68,
Sure.
Cleveland, all of this, they're trying to redo that, make the Watts riots look like a picnic with this particular agenda. Look, it's all theater, Alex, and you know that, and it's all propelled by the very people who say they're trying to stop it. Just as you found, your reporters in Ferguson on the ground, we have that same information from D.C. saying, Alex Jones, right on the money. The reporters, right on the money. This is an orchestrated method.
Well, here's what I know. You tune in to MSNBC, and you've got known FBI informants like Sharpton, caught provocateuring stuff in New York for decades, stirring up racial division. You've got all the usual suspects, and then major Facebook and Twitter accounts calling for going to cops' houses and killing their families, calling for burning things down when the verdict comes out. I mean, if I put that out, I would be arrested within 24 hours, and I should be. So there's the telltale sign. Why are they letting violent people organize and try to take over the protest? That's your telltale sign right there.
Yep, this is going to be OJ 2.0. I saw the footage of your reporters standing near Al Jazeera TV in Ferguson in the initial riots that were going on, and yet they got tear gas, but yet the looters were allowed to go. This is all part of the, and notice that you reported on this first also, that the Department of Defense released a civil operations manual for how to deal with disturbances and riots. It's not a coincidence that was released right out on the heels of
D-Day, yeah.
Yep. And this is what they plan on doing. They're training, they're using these they're hyping this up so they can start the riot, so they can use it as training exercises for when the big one comes.
Yep, exactly.
Conditioning.
So it goes back to the same thing. You can see the scientific dictatorship in its own words. They admit creating the stimulus, creating the crisis, and then gauging it and testing for bigger events. The problem is they're false flag terror attacks and winding up the Muslim extremists and protecting them. Our own military's wise to that now, even in the high-level officer level, and isn't going along with it. That's got to really be checkmating much of the globalist program. Let me ask you this, and we're going to calls. How are things going for the globalists right now from your perspective?
They're going great for them.
Oh, yeah.
They think everything's going as according to plan. You know, everybody is going to be so sick and tired of the disorder, the rising prices from inflation to the instability of the economy. They're going to create so much disorder, and they have the plans and architecture set up to deal with it the way they want to, that people are going to be begging for whatever order they bring back in.
That's right. I mean, it's over talking, but the very people who are criticizing the military on the streets today are going to be begging for that tomorrow, post-Ferguson, post-whatever riot situation.
Well, again, they love to attack the average sergeant or something on the ground who doesn't know what's going on, just doing their job. And if it's unconstitutional, they shouldn't, follow orders, obviously. But it's like blaming the average cop. It's so easy to do that. We should all blame ourselves for letting the system get in place and not being sophisticated enough to see the psyop. Because if you just blame the cop, that creates the us against them mentality that separates us, and we fall right into the plan, creating the gang mentality of balkanization that the social engineers say they're engaging in.
Just like the 1%, let's get the rich. When we see austerity measures in Greece happen, what did they do? They wanted to go, rob and take over the 1% and accumulate their wealth. And this is the mentality they have. So we are not worried about fighting against them. We're too worried about fighting against each other instead of coming together.
Exactly. And the 1% is not the guy that owns a pool company or a Corvette dealership or 5 restaurants. That's who gives you jobs. That's upper middle class or nouveau riche or wealthy. It's the ultra rich that ran all that in Greece, that are offshore, let the collapse, they call it the IMF riot, drive down prices even more to then buy the country up. Nobody's going to loot the billionaires that are ordering Greece to hand over its islands to them so they can be private resorts on the debt they owe them, which isn't even their debt. Greece signed on to the bankers' derivatives, bail them out, and then are owned by them for bailing them out with the very money. These scams are incredible. We're going to go to Ron, Barbara, Indigo Kid, Ramon, and everybody else, Kevin in a moment. Indigo Kid, then Ron in Hawaii. You're calling from Colorado. What do you think the big event is in 2015?
Well, weather modification is something I'm looking at right now quite a bit. For example, I sent you an article that I've written about how the Colorado flood of 2013 was due to cloud seeding. And there's even a CBS News article out about how cloud seeding is being used by the government to fight the drought that's going on. And basically, you'll have to read the article, but it's really all about water wars and tactical droughts and how big cities like Los Angeles and Las Vegas are paying for Colorado, for example, to cloud seed year long, which causes flooding. It's dangerous with all the...
Well, that's right. There's massive declassified global, from Africa to the Middle East to Asia to Russia to Europe, the U.S. to Central and South America, international, UN, Department of Energy, private corporate. Bill and Melinda Gates get paid billions a year to their private consortium to run a bunch of this over us. That's declassified, but what they're doing is classified. Then you tell the average person, they look at you like you got 14 heads. That's a great point. What about weird weather? What about going into an ice age? What about... all the changes we see going on, and then no one's discussing that it's weather warfare. Doug Hagmann, your take on that?
Well, I'll say this to the caller: think bigger. That's one spoke in the wheel of global tyranny, the weather modification. However, it's an important one. Water wars in the West. I understand that. We understand that. It's about the control, ultimate control over everything. See, it's now coming to a head, as we can see. Really, that's my answer. And it's interesting because as we sit here in our studio today, 50 miles from us, people can't even get out of their doors because of the level. I mean, snow up to the top of the doors in Western New York. And we had weather oddities here. I guess, and you take that.